what is up guys, Skiddy Fishing here, and today I am sitting on pretty much a cliff right now, overlooking this beautiful reservoir here in Utah. But the purpose of this video is periodically I like to update you guys on what Tenkara rods I have, and the last one I did in 2023 had like, I want to say like 15 plus rods, and it took so long to make the video and, you know, to cover, you know, the spectrum of all of the rods that I owned. And by now, at the point of this video, I'm just shy of 25 Tenkara rods. And so I've been kind of selling rods and trading rods for other rods just to keep up with experience, because truthfully, I do have an addiction to fishing as many different Tenkara rods as I possibly can. However, because of the 25 rods that I own and the 30 plus that I have fished since I've started skiddy fishing, I think I've been able to determine what my top 6 favorite Tenkara rods are. So I'm not doing top 5, I'm doing top 6. I'm really easy to please when it comes to Tenkara. Like, I am not a very nitpicky, analytical person. All of my rods have been capable of catching fish, and my favorite rods aren't really in position to catch more fish than the rods that have just been good. So with that being said, just because maybe that there's a rod that you think should have been on this video doesn't mean that I dislike that rod, and that's assuming that I have fished that rod as well. So, you know, just try to keep an open mind. This is just my opinion, but maybe the purpose of this video is that you wanted to upgrade from a basic cheap Amazon rod or something, and you want to do something or purchase something that's a little bit more of the higher quality, I guess, but maybe without breaking the bank per se. So because of that, Japanese imported rods will not be covered in this video, and it's pretty much gonna be among the mainstream American companies. The last thing worth mentioning is I'm not gonna be doing this in order of my favorites. So the rod at number 1 is not better than the rod at number 6. I like them all respectfully in their own unique ways. I will be putting links for the rods in the description below on where you can find them, and maybe some extra information in case if you're curious of getting to know those rods a little bit more. So that could include some podcast links, maybe Tenkara Angler, etc., etc. So I'll kind of keep it categorized below for you guys. So starting at number 6 is going to be the DRAGONtail Mizuchi. This is my very first Tenkara rod that I've ever owned, and man, it is super sentimental to me because of that. It is a triple zoom rod, and if you've ever heard of Teton Tenkara or Tom Davis, or maybe even Tenkara Angler, this is a pretty popular rod among the DRAGONtail brand. One thing I really like about it being in the triple zoom category is it really covers a meticulous range of zooms. It's not like an 8, 9, or 10. I think it's like 7 foot 5, 6 or something, all the way up to like 11 point something feet. So I'll try to keep everything here at the bottom once I do my fact checks on that. But it tells me that the guys who developed this rod, Brent and Tom, really have a precise vision in where they're going to use rods like this, and because of that, I think this really covers a range. I feel like my personal favorite Tenkara fishing lengths are somewhere between 9 and 10 feet, and this rod does cover that and less as well. And if you fish the West Coast, there's a lot of tight coverage blue line as well as there is in the East Coast, so this rod kind of feels universal to me. In fact, if you were buying your first Tenkara rod, I usually say get the Shadow Fire just because it's the best bang for your buck under $100. But if you could spend $50 more, I really think that this is probably the best first rod you could get, because when you upgrade, you're not going to ditch this in most cases. I really truly think this has some intermediate quality to it to where you're always going to have it. And like I said, it's my first Tenkara rod, so it's super sentimental to me. Now, there is quite a bit of consumer feedback on the Mizuchi, and a lot of people think it's stiff. It is of the 6'4", action, I guess you could say, so that would probably be more of the moderate fast. But, you know, being an avid user of Wasatch Tenkara rods, I really just don't think this rod is that stiff, because I'm used to the robustness of Wasatch Tenkara rods. For those that do still feel that way though, regardless of my opinion, they do sell 2 additional blanks for this, so you can soften up that action just a little bit. And because of that, that being a triple zoom and those 2 additional blanks, it's like 5 rods in one. You really can't beat it to some degree, and it's just really a time-tested classic in the American Tenkara world. So Perhaps the only things I probably don't like about the rod is it kind of has an astronomical collapse length to it. It's actually the longest collapsed Tenkara rod I own. And I have rods that fish, you know, 400 centimeters and above, and they're shorter than this. So it's very, very long. That probably contributes to the action. And then for some reason, I don't know if I can shed light on this too much or not, but it kind of has discolored a little bit on these blanks. It's my only Tenkara rod out of all 25 that's ever done that, and I've always found that kind of weird. It's aesthetically displeasing, but it hasn't, you know, been any performance issues by any means. So honestly, guys, I really think the DRAGONtail Mizuchi is truly a top 6, and it's going to be a really hard one to dethrone. I think the last thing worth mentioning on this is I would say fish of, let's say 9 to 13 inches, complement this rod. When I say complement, I mean like, oh, that feels really good. I mean, obviously this thing can catch bass. This thing can catch fish probably up to 20 inches, depending on your skill set as an angler. But I would say when you're fishing that, you know, let's say 10 to 13 inches, you're just like, yeah, like this is a good time. So anyway, I'm gonna put Mizuchi on top 6 for my Tenkara rods. All right, guys, the next rod in this top 6 list is going to be the Seiyu Therapy 33. This is probably the most interesting rod of all of the top 6s in this video, simply because this isn't really a major e-commerce company. In fact, it's pretty much certainly not. The owner, Anthony Parmenter, is a mental health therapist, and he has converted variations of mental health therapy into fishing. And he's been an avid Tenkara enthusiast for quite a while. And so he kind of kickstarted this brand, Seiyu Therapy. And the Kickstarter campaign was a smashing success because he ended up getting rods for his clientele. And then he had enough money to make extra rods, which his clientele bought. They were kind of the word of mouth for his company, and then, you know, they ended up buying some, and so you can actually go directly onto his website now and buy these. I don't know if there's always a ton of inventory on hand with the Seiyu Therapy, but it's just interesting that it's not really of the retail variations that Tenkara is pretty much exclusively tied to. And it's kind of an uprising phenomenon, really. I'll just mention that this is a fixed length Tenkara rod. I'll mention the length down here below. I think it's just shy of 12 feet. And it gives me the vibe of DRAGONtail's Nirvana lineup. It is such a smooth rod. It really, really is. In fact, I've done 50% of the Wyoming cut slam exclusively on this rod, and the more I fish it, the more I love it. It's really well balanced. It could probably cast a little bit of the bead nymphs, the beaded nymphs, but really of like the really microscopic ones, like a hare's ear or a zebra midge. Otherwise, I would probably exclusively fish this with weightless flies such as Kabari and Adams flies. So some of the standout features of this rod, in fact, it's the only rod that I've ever seen that kind of has this, is it has a built-in line winder on it. So you don't have to put the clip-ons, you don't have to do the zip ties or the little, you know, snaps or O-rings, whatever it is that you guys do. I actually hate those because they're eyesores to me, and I literally feel like I just cannot not focus on it while I'm fishing. So I kind of like just how really minor this is, and if I choose not to use it, I can still use the line pucks that I'm always using. But I mean, it's such a simple thing, honestly. I don't know why more Tenkara companies haven't really done this. It could be patented, I honestly don't know, but it comes with a premium cap. It's got a pretty cool handle. I mean, it's kind of the standard hourglass shape, feels really good. It does have EVA on the top and bottom. I'm really not sure why Seiyu Therapy did that, but, you know, I mean, it's cool. It's two-toned, it's different, so sometimes it's nice to have something that kind of stands out. I would say that probably the only thing I don't like about this rod is this butt cap right here. It's just extremely bulky to me, and I think the gold kind of offsets the color a little bit in contrast of the rod, but otherwise this thing is super well balanced and it fishes really well. I did forget to mention that the DRAGONtail Mizuchi probably fishes the 3.5 level line and furled line pretty well, where this fishes 3.0 level line. So don't, you know, especially if you're presenting some dry flies, the 3.5 just sags a little bit too much. So if you're looking for some delicate presentation, go with a lighter line. But I was fishing some Kabari on it in Wyoming, and the cutthroat were just going absolutely insane on it. So I love the concept. I love the logo and everything. This is seriously a top 6 rod out of the 25 to 30 plus that I have fished, and I'm looking forward to using this one a lot more. So I would say that this rod is complemented by 8 to 12-inch trout. We did catch one 13, maybe close to 14-incher in Wyoming. I would say anything bigger than that, I'm starting to sweat bullets, but don't get me wrong, it is possible. Good job, Tony. I love this one. All right, guys, the next rod on this list is going to be the Wasatch Tenkara Rods Baby Rodzilla. I'm super happy I was able to get a Wasatch Tenkara rod onto this list because truthfully, I've had a lot of experience with Wasatch Tenkara rods and I've always enjoyed them. I truthfully always have. However, their rods are just a little bit too robust for me for creek trout at times, I guess. With the exception of the Baby Rodzilla. This is without a doubt, in my humble opinion, the best trout rod that Wasatch Tenkara has made. And so the Wasatch Tenkara Rods Baby Rodzilla fishes 8 feet, 9 feet, and 10. So this is a triple zoom rod. And those are like the 3 perfect lengths to fish in Tenkara. I mean, perhaps probably one of the most standout things about the Baby Rodzilla is its color. I mean, it's got this beautiful, like, green apple color, and then it's kind of got these little brown inlays. I always call it the caramel apple, just because it gives me that beautiful aesthetic caramel apple vibe to it. In fact, I love fishing this rod specifically in fall because I feel like it just blends with everything. And I know color doesn't really mean anything when it comes to fishing, but it's fun to have a rod that just stands out to you, and I truly believe that. Handle's perfect on it. It's really, really well balanced. I would say that being able to cover this in the top 6, to me, there really isn't a tremendous difference between the 5.5 and the 6.4. They both can catch the same size fish. They both can fish 3.5 level line or furrowed line if you prefer that. But I would say the 5.5, if you want to go more Kabari and more dry fly, it does have a slightly better way of casting those. So if you're looking either or, you know, go the 5.5 if you want to go more weightless. But if you kind of want to do everything all around, you don't know if you want to do nymphs, Kabaris, dries, stoneflies, whatever. This rod, I would say the 6.4 is probably the better action for you. I would say 9 to 13-inch trout complement this rod, but I'm pretty sure you can catch up to like 18 or 19-inch trout with the right skill set with a rod like this. In fact, people are always pushing Wasatch Tenkara rods all the time for big fish. I think the only thing really I don't like about the Baby Rodzilla, and really this goes for all of the Wasatch Tenkara rods, is I just really don't like this flap. It's such a minuscule problem, and so it doesn't affect the performance of the fishing by any means. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm kind of trying to find reasons to kind of nitpick these rods a little bit, just so, you know, I mean, in a perfect world, there's always some kind of a flaw to some degree, but the flaw is not in the rod really. And this is going to be off in seconds. You're going to be fishing. It's super minor, but if they could design their socks a little bit closer to the DRAGONtail and the Seiyu style, I think it would be truly awesome. All right, guys, well, the next rod in my lineup is definitely the most unique one possibly, and it is the Tenkara USA Ukiyo. And I was so hyped about this rod when it came out, and it has really lived up to it. It's a fixed length 9.58 feet, and I would say it's of the maybe the soft side of the 6.4 spectrum, but it's just so perfect for creeks. And you'll notice that the most standout feature, obviously, is that it does not have a cork handle. I am a firm believer that when you don't have cork and you don't have EVA foam, the sensitivity uptime is so much better on carbon fiber. Therefore, if you have a nitpicky trout and it just slightly bites your fly, you could probably feel it a little bit better on a rod like this, especially a shorter one as well. And be able to hook set just a little bit quicker. This rod casts Kabari so well. It casts dry flies perfectly, little tiny zebra midges. It is just such a fun creek rod. A couple other things that I really like about it is that it does kind of have this mirrored logo system on it. So you can see, obviously, it says Tenkara USA on one side, but then if you flip it, it's mirrored. So you actually have to flip it this way. And as an influencer, I'm always taking pictures of fish in general anyway. And you don't always get to pick and choose what angle your rod's gonna lay if you want to include a fish with your rod, because your terrain is always constantly changing. And I like how they kind of do that, so you can kind of pick and choose based on your circumstances what angle that is. Such a minor thing, but it just shows that Tenkara USA is paying attention to detail. The other thing is that it does come with 2 tip caps on it, and the second one can be placed at the very bottom of it. And this is patented, so that's why you probably don't see a lot of it on other rods. It's kind of a Tenkara USA thing. But man, this rod is so dang fun. I've loved every second of it. It's a top 6 for that reason. I would say that trout of the maybe 7 to 10 inch complement this rod, but you can catch probably 12 to 13 inches on it too with your skill set. Anything bigger than that, I'm probably sweating bullets on it. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's kind of more of a small stream, small trout rod without a doubt. And obviously just look at it. So it really advertises for itself, in my humble opinion. I would also fish 3.0 level line with this. You could maybe try 2.5. I don't think most people are really touching 2.5 all that much, but I mean, I love the color on it. It is worth mentioning that this is a textured grip. It's very gritty, so it feels good. It's not gonna slip out of your hands when you're casting, but it doesn't feel cheap either. Tenkara USA seriously knocked this out of the ballpark. I've only fished 2 rods with them, with the Hane being my least favorite, and possibly one of my least favorite rods ever. And with 9.5 feet and a 10-foot Tenkara rod, I honestly really don't know why somebody would want the Hane, unless you're targeting big fish with it. All right, guys, we are down to 2 rods left to talk about. And coming in at number 2, again, no particular order, is the DRAGONtail Ragnarok. So this one was sent to my channel when it was first coming out, and I believe I may have been one of the first YouTubers to film an outing with this rod. And this is kind of an evolution and kind of I would say a 2.0. So if you've ever heard of the Nirvana 400, which is DRAGONtail's premium line of Tenkara rods, that was kind of the precursor to this rod. And what's kind of cool is that Brent, the owner of DRAGONtail, loves 400 centimeter rods. So the Nirvana 400 was kind of always his favorite. However, rather than developing a rod and being like, okay, it's good enough for me, therefore I'm gonna keep it there, he listened to consumer feedback and he literally rebranded the entire rod top to bottom. It's still a 400 centimeter rod, but I mean, aesthetically, it's mostly different and it's just a slightly softer action. And I just think that's so dang cool of DRAGONtail to listen to their consumers and really develop and push the boundaries of their rods because of that. So it is a fixed length rod. It's not a zoom like the others. I would fish this with a 3.5 level line, maybe furled if that's what you're into, but it kind of casts everything moderately well. It's really good for kabari. It's been great for dry flies. It's been great for beaded nymphs. So if you're a big Brent's Warbird fan and other beaded nymphs, and honestly I've even fished some tungsten on it from time to time. It's not perfect in casting, but it's great. And honestly, I'm just not a big 13-foot 400 centimeter plus guy. I have other ones in my collection and it's just they're a little too robust for my taste, and I have to start considering like 4.0 and bigger level lines in order to compensate the actions on it. So I'd say this is an appropriate 6'4". It's just right in the Goldilocks zone of that 6'4" type action. But I would say that this rod is pretty well complemented by, let's say 9 to 13 inch trout. But I have caught 17 inch cutthroat on this trout with no problem at all. So confirmed big fish rod if you really need one. And it is an absolute riot. So this is the only rod that makes me love 400 centimeters and really wants me to consider continuing to use it anytime that I possibly can. In fact, I kind of daydream of using this rod probably more than any other rod that I've made in this video so far. And it's just a damn shame I haven't fished it more than I already have. It truly is among my favorite rods, and I would love to get more uptime with it. I think the only thing I don't like about this rod, and again, this could be slightly controversial because it is in my top 6, is that blank number 5 appears to have some kind of a problem on it. On my debut of fishing this rod, it snapped on the 5th blank, and not a big deal. Talked to Brent about it. He sent me a new one. Within that year, I fished it maybe 2 more times, and it just broke again recently on me. So not a gripe, not upset about it. It's just one of those things where for me now, in order to fish this rod, I feel like I should always have not a spare tip on me, but a spare 5th blank at all times. It's so fun to use when it is working that I just buy an extra 5th blank, and I want more uptime on fishing this. All right, guys, last and certainly not least, and the only reason why I had to do 6 rods instead of 5 is the new Nirvana Kokoro 360. 360 centimeters is 12 feet, and this is the brand spanking new rod that DRAGONtail just came out with. So, you know, if you're watching this within the first week of me making this video, this rod is like literally a week old or less, depending on when you see it. And this is just like the Ragnarok being the kind of 2.0 version of the Nirvana 400, this is the 2.0 version of the other Nirvana rod that DRAGONtail did. I believe that one may have been a zooming rod, a double zoom. This one's just a fixed length 12-foot rod. And let me tell you guys, it is, in my opinion, it's of the 5.5 action, maybe a little bit on the upper side or the Goldilocks zone of that 5.5. And it is so dang fun. I would say because of that action, keep it weightless. You want to fish this with kabaris and dry flies. I fished beaded nymphs with it. I've caught fish on it. It's fun. You just really kind of lose that castability when you're using weight on it. But otherwise, man, it's just so dang well built, and it comes from a Korean manufacturer. And I'm a big fan of anything made in South Korea. I drive a Kia Soul, for crying out loud. So I've always loved the quality of Korean, you know, products. And, you know, Tom Davis has really raved about this rod. He says that, you know, it's of Japanese quality, but this Nirvana rod is literally, I mean, probably the best Tenkara rod that DRAGONtail has ever come out with. Hands down, pretty much almost no debate there. It may actually be my favorite Tenkara rod. I don't know. Ragnarok is still super fun, and I'm gonna have to really give this a little bit more time. But everything was really put into detail. Kind of like the Ukiyo, I do like how they did the logo one way, but then it mirrors the other way as well with the fish, the Nirvana fish. It has a really nice cap on it. It says Nirvana on the fly. This color scheme, the blue and the carbon fiber tone here, I mean, it's aesthetically such a beautiful rod. It's not too fancy, it's just right. It absolutely is just right. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I would probably fish 3.0 level line, but it can do 3.5 as well. So kind of, you pick whichever one you want, but I think 3.0 would be just slightly better. I don't know if I would fish frilled line with this rod, yeah, I literally had the idea of making this top 5 video. This came in my mail, I fished with it, and I'm like, well, crap, now I have to add this into the video. So so definitely a favorite. Another thing that's really cool about this as well is the rod tube. Actually, the rod tube is definitely premium, but this is cool. Like, it's got a nice little grip on it. I mean, it's just different. I like it that it's just different enough. And so yeah, this rod is definitely going to be used a lot more here real quick, because man, I am already daydreaming of using it again after just finishing fishing it. So but that's pretty much it, guys. That is my top 6 favorite Tenkara rods. There's absolutely room for any of these to be dethroned at any time. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be purchasing more rods or collecting more or trading some. So if you have suggestions, let me know. If you fished any of the rods and you like them, comment below. If there's a rod that I didn't include in here and you'd like to talk about it, definitely let me know. I would love to know your opinion. And I hope you liked the background view I chose today. It was a little bit more random, and I hope that the cars weren't too obnoxious on this, but much respect for all of the Tenkara brands out there, including the ones that did not make the cut of this video, because most of the Tenkara rods truly are good. I would just say that these 6 that I covered are of the great category. So anyway, appreciate your views, appreciate the subs. Be sure to follow my Instagram if you guys want to follow my picture stories and just kind of the picture journey that comes with that, I guess. I don't know. But we'll see you guys on the next river, and we'll go from there. Tight lines, everyone.